I'm going to go over more about the chaos, and I'm going to try to do a whole series about chaos and how when you have a lot of chaos in your life, it affects not just you, but everyone else. So they just said, why didn't I say when I have a lot of chaos in my life? Because this isn't about me. And they even admit it. It's about them having a lot of chaos and how it affects everyone around them. That's a big issue. I got to write it down because I'll forget. But what I wanted to start off talking about is, and I just forgot. This is my point. Like, it's weird for me to be around people 24/7 who obviously have major issues. Usually, they even admit it at work. I would kind of avoid them, not stay away. They like to, when it's about them, they like to use these type sort of stay away, no, avoid. They have issues. They would say, we're dealing with something, meaning when it's them, they have so much time and energy to come up with an excuse that when they said they thought I would make an excuse, I wouldn't. That's their personality. But what I'm talking about, and as I'm speaking, as they're trying to substitute me for them and them for me. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a big concept. And now I forgot what I was going to say before this, but I'm going to go on the concept that I want to talk about in them and chaos. In their minds, if they kind of put themselves into my place, then they're me. And they just said walk a mile in a person's shoes. That's not what that means. That's not what any of this means. There's a commercial that's really funny, and they kind of talk about that. It's not that the challenge isn't to put yourself in someone else's shoes and pretend you're that person. The challenge is to see that person from that person's perspective. That's a completely different thing. So, meaning, if I say, for example, want to imagine myself in someone else's shoes, I'm not pretending to be that person. I'm imagining that person's perspective, which is completely different than pretending to be that person. Because even that, if you say pretend to be that person, what's the big word that stands out in that sentence? Pretend. But when you're looking at the world from someone else's perspective, you're putting yourself in that person's perspective, not by pretending to be them, but thinking of and feeling what that person may be feeling. And that's part of why I avoid these types of people. Because even the way they treat themselves compared to the way they treat other people is different. Isn't that what we always want? We want to, they say in the Bible, I don't want to, I hate to bring up religion when it comes to this because I don't want to drag down religion. Do you know what I'm saying? They say, why don't I like to talk about religion in this discussion? Because in some ways I feel that that's what they do. They drag down religion. They use religion as though they want to use me. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's how I feel. Like, they're users, and predators use whatever they can to get what they want. And I don't want that to happen to religion. But in the Bible, it says, you treat others, do unto others as you would want done unto you. So in their trying to teach me a lesson, they're not teaching me the right thing. They're teaching me the wrong thing. And when they are treating themselves better than they treat other people, the lesson is that they're incapable of doing unto others as they would want done to them. Going back to, I forgot what I was going to say, so I'll do another video on that once I watch this video and figure out what I was going to say. But you see how their chaos affects people around them. When you deal with people who are chaotic people, what tends to happen is a lot of their chaos affects the people around them, and in turn that affects the people around them. So meaning, if you have a chaotic person somewhere in your life, in this case it's in this apartment, even when I'm outside, they try to make it so that I would get involved in things that I have nothing to do with. I don't want to discuss what happened yesterday because that's what they wanted me to discuss, but I want to just talk about something in general. And I want to talk about it as a 50-year-old. When I was younger, we had a lot of wise people around us, and they would tell us things that you would have to sit and think about. You know this part of this, that they always want to come back at you really fast with something, but when you're dealing with people who are mature and smart, you really have to think for a second about what they're telling you. And when I was younger, you couldn't come up with a fast enough comeback. And that's really the lesson you learned. As fast as you think your mouth can run, their brains run faster. And you couldn't outrun their brain or outtalk their brain. So when I was younger, and I hope to get into this a little bit more, people used to say, um, I can't get the saying right this second, but it's along the lines of sometimes the best thing to say is to say nothing. And there's another saying that goes with that. And that's something that I think applies to this situation. Sometimes in life, you don't have to say anything. Your silence says everything. If you are avoiding people, those are people you shouldn't be around. It doesn't make sense to be around someone who avoids you. And this goes back to what I'm saying. There's something in this situation makes me remember the old ways of doing things and why they were successful. And this way isn't. So when they were talking about how they did this to me to teach me a lesson because years ago I got away with everything, there's no such thing. Where were you years ago? If you were around years ago, I wouldn't have gotten away with things. And that's part of what I'm saying. There's something in this situation, I'll call it, where there are people who aren't accepting reality. And I think they've spent so many years talking to themselves in this deal with maybe this in that way that they can't face the truth. And when the truth is staring at them, I think they're the ones that the older generation talked about. Meaning the older generation, I think, recognized these types of people. And I think the older generation got it. So in their minds, they think the older generation was harsh with them. And they think that now they can come around, now that the older generation unfortunately isn't around, they can come around and punish people who they thought the older generation wasn't as harsh on. What I'm saying is this. I think what is happening in the world today is partly what's the result of people not wanting to tell people directly what's going on. It isn't for me to take care of chaotic people. It's for chaotic people to become less chaotic. So if you are trying to cause chaos in the world for whatever reason, I want to know why. I think what it is they benefit. You know, there's another principle that I can't remember, but there's another concept that when you want to get ahead in the world, find a chaotic situation. Meaning there are people who find chaos and then they are able to benefit from them. The majority of us really don't benefit in those types of situations because of the chaos, but they do. It's because they take advantage. And I think that's part of this. Meaning, if you are the type of personality that will take advantage of people, the best way to take advantage of people is a chaotic situation. And that's who I feel these people are. The other point I want to make about that is that when they're trying to put the chaos on me, then everyone's looking at me, and obviously chaotic I'm not a chaotic person, and I'm not the one creating the chaos. They felt that that would mean they could get away with taking advantage of chaos. But what it really does is it makes everyone else kind of stop and figure out, why are these people trying to create chaos around me? Wouldn't they be the ones to stop the chaos? If you aren't trying to take advantage of something, you stop it immediately. So, for example, if you go into a place and everyone's doing their own thing, and suddenly someone grabs the attention. Everyone usually steps back. The person who's trying to make the situation better will approach the person causing the chaos and resolve it. There would be some sort of end. But if the person, and it wouldn't be me, it would be them because they're in a higher position. By the very nature of this gang stalking scam, they're in a higher position. Someone in a lower position could not do these things. So you want to ask yourself, well, why would someone in a higher position want the chaos to continue? It's because they can take advantage of that. Someone like me who wants this to stop immediately. It's causing too many problems. It's causing too much stress. It's causing sickness, illness, mental and physical, emotional. I wouldn't want the chaos to continue, but I also wouldn't add myself to a chaotic situation. Do you understand what I mean by that? Meaning, if there's already a chaotic situation, I would not be the person to interrupt that chaos and cause more chaos. There would have to be someone at a higher level who comes in and says enough. So, for example, whoever is the person in control of the situation, whether it's an employee, whether it's an older person with more life experience, whether it's someone who can relate to either the two, maybe you know one of the people causing the chaos, that's the person who you would expect to get involved, not me. So I'm going to end this video with that, and then I'll look to find out what was I going to say before this. Thank you for watching.